Let's do the breakfast in Plus TV Africa. It's time where we look at our second conversation right here. The menace of vote buying in the Nigerian polity. We have Mohammed Abdullahi, who's a public affairs analyst. He joins the conversation this morning. We also have Agule, who's on standby. He joins the conversation as well. Gentlemen, it's good to have you join us this morning.
Good morning. Thank you very much for having me.
Good morning, Nigerians.
All right, let's take a look at the background to this conversation. It's possible. Is it possible? That's the question, to reverse the vote buying practice. For instance, it's generally known that politically exposed individuals usually withdraw humongous money amount of cash from banks few days to the election, and as such, it's a responsibility of security agencies to monitor such funds and ensure that they act if these monies are used in violation of the Money Laundering Act 2011 as amended. Nigerians should properly see their rather unfortunate phenomenon of vote buying as a very critical impediment to genuine democratic consolidation, which is truly the situation. It has also been said that political office holders' vote buying issues has opened most closed immediately opportunities. Voters who allow unscrupulous politicians to use them to get into office by all means of electoral shenanigans should know that they are throwing away their fundamental rights to democratic accountability through a selfish act. And of course, their benefactors are only to fit in and be treated as felonies and thrown behind bars. The FCC and the ICPC must act accordingly. And to make sense of all of this morning, like I mentioned earlier on, we have Agule and Mohammed, who joins the conversation. Abdullahi. It's good to have you join us this morning. Let's start with Agule. Agule, the issue of vote buying is no longer news for us, and is no longer news for the electioneering process and our electioneering system. But what do you think of this vote buying issue? Some people are saying that the reason that we have vote has been induced is because, of the economic situation of the country. Poverty has been mentioned as a factor that's responsible for vote buying during elections.
Thank you much for that question. I think the first thing I would like to say about this vote buying, which is real, is that there are a lot of people who stay away from the ballot boxes on the excuse that our votes don't count, the results have already been decided, and for that reason, they don't want to take their own active part in the political process by electing leaders that we deserve. My question to those people is that if votes don't count, why are politicians buying them? The politicians are actually buying votes, and it means that votes are actually counting, and that is why they are buying these votes. And this is because when we started this current democratic, when we started this current democratic system that we're running now, in 1999, the first 3 electoral circles were not counting because there were a lot of shenanigans, like you said, including ballot box snatching, thumb printing, and all of that was going on. And the electoral process has been strengthening over time, especially with the introduction of technology. And this has made the kind of things that were happening before impossible. And that is what now made politicians, when they realized that votes are counting, decided that they will be buying the votes. So I want this message to go out to all Nigerians, home and abroad, to say that the democratic process in Nigeria is getting better, is deepening, and at the point where we are now, our votes are counting, and this is why politicians are doling out billions to buy these votes.
Um,
And now to the question you asked, yes, people are buying these votes or are selling their votes because of the hard times. When a man has not seen 500 naira for the last 2 weeks, and he has suddenly seen the 500 naira only for him to thumbprint on the ballot paper, that's enough compensation for him to sell his votes. So the economic situation, like you have rightly said, is also playing a part in this situation.
all right, so let's have Mohammed Abdullahi joining the conversation now. You've heard from Nick Agule. He's saying that, yes, political apathy is one of the reasons why you have vote buying thriving so much. And you can also not rule out the fact that, poverty is also number one on the front burner. But do you agree through his position?
Thank you. I think I might have to disagree a bit with Mr. Nick. For me, I don't think political apathy, voter apathy contributes majorly to vote buying. I think our major problem is the fact that it's a problem of policy failure. It's a problem of implementation of, or even the policies that we have, the failure of implementation of the policies. For instance, let me start by even the primaries of the various political parties. In recent years, INEC has collaborated with security agencies like ICPC and EFCC in actually curbing this menace of vote buying. But we understand that in the recent primaries, for instance, there was a particular delegate of a People's Democratic Party in Kaduna here who came back after the presidential primaries with more than 12 million or 13 million Nigerian naira and distributed much of that money to his constituencies in Sanga local government in Kaduna State. And he was widely reported in the national dailies and even television, celebrated, quote and unquote, as a good Samaritan delegate who got more than 13 million from the primaries and then shared and distributed almost everything to his constituency. While we say that might be a good gesture, but that is vote buying if you look at it critically, because he is being paid to select a presidential candidate of a party that will now become a candidate that Nigerians will either vote for or not. So that is one. There are AICPCs and KFCC operatives in that ground, but nobody is talking about arresting such delegate that got huge, humongous amount of money just to cast his vote for a delegate, for the candidate of the party. So it's a menace that is not just about voter apathy. Yes, we know that people are hungry, there is poverty in the land, but that is not just the major cause. The major cause for me is the fact that we have refused to imbibe technology. Technology would have solved a whole lot of these problems.
Now, Mohammed Abdullahi, let's look at this very critical. I mean, we've moved away from the part where you have the party primaries. We understand the dynamics and the politics that happens, at the party level when you have these primary elections and the delegates. But we're talking about, for instance, I'm sure that you followed and monitored the elections that happened. These elections have been saying that, this election, the Ekiti state election, and the Osun elections are the closest to the general elections in 2023. Now, for the Ekiti state elections, we saw videos. You would probably say we need to probe them. These are individuals who were very proud and could show off on camera that they actually, exchange their vote for a few notes, as you can actually see. So I'm trying to understand, why you'd say that, policy failure is responsible for all of this. I mean, you're talking about an individual here who's gone to a polling unit and decides to take money, and they're even proud enough to put it out and say, hey, I've collected X, Y, Z, and, I've casted my vote. It doesn't really matter. And that's it. So how do we solve this problem? As much as you say that you also agree to the fact that poverty is the issue, but you're also not saying that, political apathy can not just be the issue. But other persons have also said that. The fact that we don't have enough awareness, we're talking about, voter education, the level of awareness created, the reason why people should not sell their vote despite the economic situation. Some persons are saying that this has been very low entirely. We've not had, creating the awareness. This might just also be out of ignorance, not understanding the consequences for selling your vote at different points. Abdullahi Mohammed.
Yes, you are quite right. There are myriads of issues that is contributing to vote buying in Nigeria, and those are some of the issues you have rightly mentioned. For instance, we see in the recently concluded Ekiti elections, there was a report that before the election, constituents and electorate were screaming that they are not going to accept any form of inducement, cash inducement to vote any party. But on the day of election, we see on videos, in cameras and so on records and so on, where people are giving even as little as 3,000 and 5,000 naira to vote, probably against or for their conscience. But what we are saying is this: like I mentioned earlier, there are security apparatuses, security agencies stationed at the polling unit. What are they doing, or what were they doing when people were being...
All right, let's have Nick Agule.
Giving cash. That is the role of this. That's why I mentioned policy failures, implementation of policies. There are security agencies stationed there. And what were they doing?
So you think that, because, of course, we're going to hear from Nick Agule now. You're saying that if you have the EFCC, we saw that the EFCC made several arrests, and we saw the presence of the EFCC. It was very obvious at the time. But are you saying that if you have the EFCC going about during the day of election, that would help in curbing the issue of vote buying in our elections? Nick Agule, let's have you share your thoughts on that one.
Yes. So before I answer your question, let me clarify my initial position. My initial position was not to say political apathy or voter apathy is a cause of vote buying. No. I know that in the 2019 presidential elections, for instance, the voter turnout was 34%. So I was appealing to the over 60% that didn't show up on the excuse that our votes don't count. And I was passing a direct message to them to say, if our votes are not counting, why are politicians buying these votes? The only reason that the politicians are buying votes is because our votes are counting. And by that statement, I was mobilizing the over 60 people that stayed away, that in 2023 they should show up at the ballot boxes, because that is a population that will most likely not say their votes, the population that has been staying away. So that was the clarification that I was trying to make.
All right. So in other words,
I agree with my co-panelists. Yes.
Go ahead, quickly.
Yeah, so I said I was to agree with my co-panelists that what is happening with this vote buying is a systemic failure. Because, like in the recent Ekiti gubernatorial election, reports had it that there were agents of the vote buyers that were stationed by the polling booths, so that when people thumbprint on a particular candidate, they show their ballot paper to the agent who confirms that yes, the thumbprint is on that specific candidate, and when that vote seller leaves the polling booth, he now gets his payment. The question is that how could such an agent of the vote buyers be allowed close, even a kilometer?
All right, Nick Agule, we have to let you go. We have to let you go now. Thank you so much for being part of the breakfast. We appreciate you, and we appreciate your perspective on the show this morning. Thank you so much, Mohammed Abdullahi, as well, for being part of the breakfast.
Thank you so very much for having me.
Thank you, gentlemen, for being part of the conversation. We hope that we're able to, curb the menace of vote buying as we move closer to the 2023 general elections. That's the size of the show this morning. If you missed out on any part of it, it's all right to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and to subscribe to our YouTube channel at PlusTvAfrica and PlusTvAfrica Lifestyle. I am Menace. Many thanks for watching.